أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. I praise Allah Azza wa Jal, and I seek His help and His aid, and I seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal from our evil, and from the evil of shaitan, and from the evil of sins, and from the evil of money, if there is any evil in money. I started by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So I could get rid of shaitan and strengthen myself and use this. We're approaching a very important topic. We're going to be talking about money. Show me the money. Inshallah. This is a very laws of inheritance, wills, bequest, very, very vast topic. And there's no way that you can cover this topic in 45 minutes or 30-minute lecture. In fact, I remember when we were doing Islamic studies in our bachelor's program in the 40s, there was one subject called al-mawarith or al-fara'id that we had to study. A whole semester we have to study. You can't hear me? Maybe your hearing aid, Brother Nino, just ran out of battery. Can you ask, brother? Okay, what about now? Now better? Okay, this was off. Jazakallah khair. So this is a very, very intense and very vast topic, and it's not. I don't see the necessity for us to go over certain details and technicalities in this particular lecture. There are a lot of technicalities and legal issues that will be covered, inshallah, so I don't want to take any of that. That will be covered next week, bismillah. So tonight I decided to just speak about the importance of the topic itself and what the Sharia said about it, right? And give maybe a couple of examples of how it's done and maybe the significance of it. So before we start, I ask a question. Is money good or evil? Let me ask this question. Is money, wealth, good or evil? Okay, I want you to answer. You have to. The answers should be A, good, B, evil. Okay, those who believe that it's A, good, raise your hands. You can only choose one answer. Okay, those who believe that it's evil, B, raise your hands. Only two? Only two? Everybody else? I was telling you that well, it's not really the biblical point of view, but they say that the love of money is the root of all evil. See, Islam, subhanAllah, has balanced the most wise approach to any concept or any issue. Someone was quoted saying, he said, the truth is that the love of money or wealth is something natural. And he said, in any person that claims that they don't love money or wealth is a liar or a hypocrite. And then he quoted someone saying, one of the wise people of the past said, whosoever claims that he doesn't love money is a liar. He said, until he is proven to be truthful. And he said, and then if he proves himself to be truthful, then he's an idiot. Now, of course, when we want to answer this question, whether money is evil or good, or the love of money is this, we go and look what the Quran said about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, for instance, وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمًّا وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. That you love wealth. You human beings love wealth. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. This is man's nature, this is human being's nature. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. The scholars of tafsir, pretty much there's consensus that khayr here means what? Wealth. It means wealth. Well, there's another verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in Surah Maryam, in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الْمَالُ وَالْبَنُونَ زِينَةُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. The beauty of this life, mal, wealth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually explicitly in Surah Al-Imran, I believe Surah 3 verse maybe 14, Allah explicitly said, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ. Gold and silver, that's what? That's money. That was beautified, the love of those items was beautified to people. So it is something natural that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with. And I was going to run an experiment, but I realized that we don't have little kids. But if you were to go to little kids, just to see, and someone was telling me that after, of course, well, it depends. He said he went to his nephew and he offered him a piece of chocolate and $1. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Back there. Can you come here? No, your daughter. Yeah, I have something for her. Good. No, okay, this is the chocolate. Bring it. Stay as well. Okay. Now I want you to choose. You want this or this? Look, this is a dollar. This is a dollar. Which one do you like? This? Now, is she going to go or not? Can you go? Real quick. I will come if you don't want to come. Okay, I have one of two gifts. You have to choose one. You want this or this? Which one would you choose? Okay. Here's what I found from my experience. You offer a little kid, a boy, you offer a little boy a piece of chocolate or money, he will take the chocolate. You offer a little girl a chocolate or money, no matter how little they are, they will always choose the money. Which proves that scientific theory that says women use both sides of their brain. And maybe that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses that talk about inheritance and the laws of inheritance and money in Surah An-Nisa. Women, I guess, appreciate money much more than men. I don't know what it is, but subhanAllah. Alright, but every time you do this, you'll find it to be pretty much consistent. Human beings have this natural tendency to love or appreciate wealth. This is natural. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes it in the Quran, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recognizes it as well in the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wa sallam. Now, this is not an issue. You see, the issue is where you get that wealth from and how you deal with it, and what you do with it. That's what becomes halal and haram. That's what becomes good or evil. But wealth itself is not evil. How you get it and what you do with it is, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you responsible for on the Day of Judgment. Because this life of ours is a test. And once you die, your reckoning begins, and you will be questioned about how you've done in your test in this life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ. Allah is the one that created life and death to test you. So this life is a test. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us that on the Day of Judgment, everybody will be asked questions about this test. One of those questions, or one of those areas where you will be questioned, is wealth. What did you do with the wealth? In the hadith, in the famous hadith that you all know, the Prophet ﷺ said, لَن تَزُولَ قَدَمَ عَبْدٍ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ حَتَّى يُسْأَلَ عَنْ أَرْبَعٍ. Every human being will be asked about 4 things. One of them is one of those items, وَعَنْ مَالِهِ, his wealth, مِنْ أَيْنَ اكْتَسَبَهُ وَفِيمَا أَنْفَقَهُ, where he got it from and how he spent it. Where he got it from and how he spent it. What did he do with it? One of those avenues, halal, pure sources of wealth is inheritance. When you inherit money from someone. If you inherit it from this is one of those halal ways that you get wealth. And it is also one of those ways that you spend the wealth through. When you leave it behind, you're still responsible for it. If you have the ability to control how it's used afterwards, you're responsible for it. So you have to make sure that you do your part before you're dead. The last thing you want to do is the wealth that you should leave behind to help you generate good deeds, if you do well with it. Last thing you want is that wealth which you have, basically pretty much have done a lot, and you went through a lot, and you worked hard to earn it. You don't want that wealth to be a source of blame and a source of punishment after your death. That's the last. I think this is my worst nightmare. You work hard for the wealth, and it becomes a curse afterwards. How you deal with that, and whether you follow the Islamic guidelines or not, that's what determines. Now, we live in a society, in a non-Muslim society, where it is very important, and again, you're going to cover the legal issue will be covered inshallah next week, but where if you do not write a will, if you do not bequeath, if you do not exactly determine how it's done, how it should be handled after your death, you leave your estate and you leave your wealth, it will be mismanaged and it's not going to be done in the Shari'i, in the proper Islamic manner, and you will be responsible for it. This takes me to the issue of wasiyyah, writing a will, bequeathing, or writing a will, bequest. What is the ruling of it? And does anyone know what is the ruling of writing a will in Islam? Anyone knows? Is it halal, haram, wajib? Is it obligatory? Okay. Well, this was indeed the case. It was obligatory in the beginning when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the following verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, 180. Allah says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ إِنْ تَرَكَ خَيْرًا لِلْوَصِيَّةِ. It is written upon you, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ, just like fasting, كما كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. When death approaches one of you, إِنْ تَرَكَ خَيْرًا, if he or she are leaving behind any wealth, al-wasiyyah, they have to bequeath. They have to write a will. And this was the case until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, a set of verses actually, a number of verses, explaining how your estate or your wealth should be divided after your death. And that's when the Prophet ﷺ made the following statement, لا وصية لوارث. You do not bequeath, you do not write a will, you don't have to write a will, لوارث, for anyone, for any of the heirs. So now we have several passages or several cases right here. They said initially, before those laws were revealed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left things the way they are. People had their own ways of dividing their wealth. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the believers or the Muslim society was ready to deal with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals and breaks that. It gives us the breakdown of how the wealth should be divided afterwards. And it's the responsibility of the heirs and the authorized, the people of authority to make sure that the wealth is divided according to the Sharia as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. Verses 7 through 13 in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4. 7 through 13, actually through 14 you can say, very firm, with powerful ending, talk about the details. There are other verses somewhere, in some other places, like the end of Surah An-Nisa also, that will reveal later. But this set of verses with very powerful ending, with a lot of details, talk about the laws of inheritance. Pretty much the basic laws of inheritance, how it should be divided, all the basic cases. And I'll just share with you, for example, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first of all, Allah starts by saying, لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ. For men, there is a share from that which the parents and those of their kinship have left. وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ, and women have a share as well. Of course, this is the first verse that came, pretty much ending the practice of the ancient nations, including the Arabs, of depriving women from their right of inheritance. In fact, in some cultures, women used to be inherited like any other piece of property. So Islam comes and ends this. And I was sharing the other day with a sister that Umar radiallahu anhu he said, كُنَّا فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ لَا نَعُدُّ النِّسَاءَ شَيْئًا. During the time of Jahiliyyah, we did not consider women to be anything. حَتَّى ذَكَرَهُنَّ اللَّهُ فِي الْقُرْآنِ, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Qur'an and mentioned their rights. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them their rights of inheritance in the Qur'an. That's when they realized, wait a minute, they're just our partners. It's like, no. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated that. مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ. Listen to the ending of this verse. مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. Be it little or much, a lot. Whether it's $100 or, whether it's 100,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the law, these are the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The following verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or verse 10, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those people who do not follow the proper etiquette and consume the wealth of the orphans by saying, إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا. They are consuming hell, they are consuming fire, and they will actually suffer in the blazing fire of Jahannam. One more, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the breakdown, and He says, in one verse He says, وَصِيَّةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ. This is a wasiyah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another one He says, verse 11, فَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ, an obligation from Allah. So it is not something to be taken lightly. And I remember, subhanAllah, when, I guess it's still fresh in my mind, when my father-in-law died, 25 days later my own father died. And I remember doing the same thing with my siblings that I did with my in-laws. I gathered everyone together when it was still, and I said, listen, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Qur'an. People take this issue lightly, and it should not be taken lightly. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a lot of emphasis, mentions a lot of details. Normally, you would find in the Sharia, is there something more important than Salah? Is there something more important than Salah from the practices? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, pray. It is the Prophet who taught us. Allah left it to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through the Sunnah to teach us, how many prayers and how to pray and how many rak'ahs. All of these details were left in the Sunnah. When it comes to the laws of inheritance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not leave it to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet did point a few things here and there, but the basic laws were explained by Allah in the Qur'an. You will find also a very interesting pattern when it comes to financial transactions that are so common that people take lightly. The Qur'an comes and breaks it down. The longest verse in the Qur'an is Ayatul Dayn. The proper etiquette of how we should deal with loan, and how we should write it down, how we should document it, and how many witnesses you need. Because this is a very critical issue. This is an issue that actually divides and breaks families. And that's why the Sharia comes and puts a lot of emphasis on it. So initially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory upon a person who's dying to write a will. And then later when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the breakdown in those verses, that was not the case. So the ulama say that when it comes to writing a will, listen to this carefully, it takes 5 rulings. It could be obligatory if the person has debts or has issues, financial issues that need to be recorded or documented. In that case, it is what? Obligatory, pretty much there is consensus amongst the 4 schools of fiqh. The second one is, they said, writing a will is recommended, mustahab, you get reward for it. Such as, for example, writing in your will, giving a share, for example, to the masjid or any endowment, doing something good with it, or giving someone who is either related to you or someone who is not related to you, if they need it, giving them something in your will. because they're not going to receive, they don't have a share, according to the Sharia, they're not one of the heirs, one of the legal heirs, then you basically remember them by giving them a share from that 1/3 that you have, which we shall explain now. So in this case, it is recommended, you will be rewarded for it. And if you do it for a charity, then it's Sadaqah Jariyah. The Prophet in the Hadith tells us that when a human being dies, all of his deeds, his good deeds, the soul will be seized. It's over. And you don't have a revenue that brings you good deeds after your death except through 3 means, one of which is Sadaqah Jariyah. Charity that is a continuous charity, or an endowment of some kind that will generate good deeds for you. The third one, they said mubah, it's permissible to write a will. And these are normal circumstances if you want to give someone that is not in need, but it's permissible for you to do. The fourth type is makruh. It is disliked. And this one takes 2 forms. It is not Islamically acceptable for someone to write a will with the intention of depriving or punishing someone who is supposed to receive a share. Depending on how unjust the person is being, it could vary from being disliked, makruh, all the way to being haram and invalid, batil. So for example, someone is diagnosed with cancer, they are told that they have 6 months to live. And he doesn't like his wife, so he wants her share to decrease. He knows she's going to get 1/8 of his estate, of his wealth, according to the Sharia. So he wants her share to decrease. He has no interest whatsoever to write. So he goes and gives 1/3 of his wealth to his neighbor. And for example, they said, depending, and this of course in an Islamic court system, it's these kind of wills that are written during this critical period of someone's life, when the person is either told that they're going to die or during those critical days or months of their life, it is analyzed by a Muslim judge normally, and to see what were the motives of that individual. Now, with consensus amongst the scholars, it's haram to write a will in which someone denies someone a share which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them in the Quran. That is haram. Period. Someone might say, no, I don't want to give my daughter. Like for example, sometimes in those movies, I don't know if they do it still until nowadays, you'll hear someone say, حَحْرِمَهُ مِنَ الْمِيرَاثِ. A father will threaten his son and say, I'm going to basically deprive you from your share in my wealth. You can't do that, it's haram. Because you don't have control over your wealth. It is haram. So if someone does that, it is not permissible. Or to give one of your heirs extra share. That is also haram, because in the hadith the Prophet said, لَا وَصِيَّةَ لِوَارِثٍ. لَا وَصِيَّةَ لِوَارِثٍ. You cannot write in your will, give someone more share than the Sharia has already given them. And if someone does that out of ignorance, or they did it, let's say their oldest son, or did a lot of the work and they worked harder than the rest of the siblings, and they believe that they should maybe get a little more, and he gave him or her from that 1/3 of theirs a little extra, it has to be approved by the rest of the heirs before it becomes halal. But the person who's writing a will must not do that. So inshallah, so these are the four. Now, the scholars nowadays, they look at a situation similar to ours here in North America, where if you do not take care of your wealth and you don't write a will, and you divide it, according to the Sharia, that wealth of yours will go to someone else, or Uncle Sam will seize it, or you will lose half of it, or your wife or your in-law, whatever it is. It will go to someone that does not deserve it according to the Sharia. In this case, in our case here, pretty much amongst the scholars who are aware of our situation here in America, there's pretty much agreement amongst them that it is it's an obligation. It is mandatory if you have wealth to write a will. Because if you don't write a will according to Islam, you know what will happen with your estate and your wealth? The experts and the legal experts will tell you next week. It will be divided. Not according to the Sharia, it will be taken away. right? And we have somebody with us here who can tell us. It will be given out, and I know tons of sad stories of how people who neglected or did not care for this, how their wealth was basically mismanaged. There's another issue. Many people here in North America, they have debts of all kinds. And the ulama, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu was one of those people who was very, he said, ما مرت علي ليلة منذ سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ذلك إلا وعندي وصيتي. The Prophet said in the hadith, ما حق امرئ مسلم له شيء يوصي فيه يبيت ليلتين إلا وصيته مكتوبة عنده. Even if you're not diagnosed with a deadly disease or... The Prophet in the hadith said, it is a haqq, it's an obligation upon any Muslim who has a matter in which he has to write a will. Debts, whether things that he owed others or money that others owed him. It's an obligation upon every Muslim to write it down, record it. Do not let 2 nights pass by, that's what, 48 hours, without you taking care of this, documenting it in the best of fashion, and having it with you, or having it somewhere where people can access it after you're dead. So Ibn Umar says, ever since I heard the Messenger of Allah make this statement, he said, I had not spent the night without my will under my pillow. Literally. And he used to change his will. Sometimes you have to update the will. And again, you're going to, that will be covered next week as well, inshallah, how you can do that. You have to update the will. You have a new member in the family, or may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and preserve all of you and your family members, or a family member dies. Sometimes we have to update the will based on the change in some of the circumstances. Now, you have to remember that it is one of the signs of good ending, husn al-khatimah, for someone to take care of this matter and to write their will. And it is the opposite. It is one of the signs of evil ending for someone to neglect this obligation, or not to do it properly according to the Sharia. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ talks about إن الرجل لا يعمل بطاعة الله 70 سنة ثم يحضره الموت فيضار في الوصية فتجب له النار. He said, a man may do good deeds, very righteous person, for 70 years, and then death approaches him, and while he's dying, he writes his will, and in his will, he wrongs someone in his will. And this is an act of what? Dhulm. This is a righteous person, but he has a daughter-in-law that he hates, and he cannot imagine, and he knows his son does not have good financial management, and she's going to take over that money, right? And he doesn't want him to have access to it, so he deprives that son from his haqq. By doing such a thing, the Prophet says, فَتَجِبُ لَهُ النَّارِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will throw him in hellfire because of this. He will incur upon himself the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Because you don't interfere with this. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reserved the right to divide himself in the Qur'an. And it became a Qur'an that will be recited until the end of time. So this is an area where you should not interfere in the wrong fashion. You should only do whatever is necessary to implement what Allah Azza wa Jalla decided in the Qur'an. Okay. So, having said that, what should we do? If you have any amount of wealth, be it a lot, whether it's a lot of money or it's a small amount of money, you have any property, any estate under your name, you have accounts, you have stocks, you have anything that is worth any money. And, or if you have debts, whether you owe people or people owe you need to record all of that and document it in the proper fashion. ASAP. And whatever needs legal assistance or Shari'i assistance, you need to go and seek that. It's an obligation, especially here in America. You know, a lot of people do it before they go to Hajj, which is a very noble thing, you know, no problem. But Hajj is not a journey of death. And what about when you go to Pakistan? Or what about when you go to South Africa? Or what about when you go to, you know, on a vacation? Those people who went to vacation in Southeast Asia, they didn't think they were gonna, you know, they're going to be washed by a tsunami. They went there to have fun. Many people don't think that if they want to go on a cruise trip, you know, for 7 days after 10 years of marriage, they don't think that this requires riding. Why? According to Ibn Umar, you should not let any day or any night pass without writing a will if you must do that. So do it as soon as possible. If you have to spend any money to do it properly, do it in legal, with legal consultant or assistant, then that money that you do, that you spend, inshallah, you will be rewarded for it. It is worth doing that. Okay. Now, you should also assign someone, or actually more than one person, to watch over this process. You know, someone that you trust to watch over this process and watch over your kids after marriage. And please do not go to the Imam of the Masjid, because the Imam cannot handle all the members of the community. So, you know, let it be someone who is, you know, but have more than one person. Right? And are you going to cover this next week?
It should be done next week, yes.
Okay, so this will be covered.
The executive of the state,
yes,
should be at least
two individuals. Okay, excellent. And actually the ulama, the scholars, talk about this very early on. They talk about having someone and how recommended it is to have someone to watch over this. And that person has to be someone who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, someone with high ethical and moral values and principles. And they have to be also reminded of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلْيَخْشَ الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. Now, the other thing is, if you yourself have been an heir of someone, or your parents passed away, or you know of any wealth that is sitting around waiting to be divided according to the Sharia, and you know many people are so laid back about it, they don't care. It has to be done ASAP. Take care of it ASAP. Don't let it linger. I don't care if it's 10 years or 20 years. Get it done with. If you don't want your share, right? If you have control over someone else's share, you definitely need to deliver it to them as soon as possible. As soon as possible. If you yourself have your share somewhere else, you know, it's just or with somebody else, and you don't want it, get it divided. Know what your share is, and then after that, say I don't want it. You take it or give it to any of the other heirs, or give it as a sadaqah. But don't leave it there untouched or in a state where it's not decided. I tell you what, because if you have a share, let's say you have 50,000 dirham somewhere that you inherited or you know from your parents. Now it is yours. It's in your name. You haven't done anything about it. You didn't take it. You didn't give it back to someone else. The ownership is yours. You die. Guess who becomes the owner of that? Your heirs, your children, your wife. Who is responsible about informing them about it? You. You didn't do your part. What happens? That money, believe it or not, brothers and sisters, becomes mal al-yatim. It becomes the wealth of an orphan. And whoever keeps that money, or whoever ends up taking it, they are consuming the wealth of an orphan. And that's why, you know, letting these kind of things just without finalizing them is not Islamic. It's un-Islamic. So take care of it ASAP. know your share and then give it away. Say, so it's no longer in your name. So if you die, it's not yours anymore because you gave it back to someone or you gave it to your mother. So this has, whether it is a property or whether it's cash, liquid. And so that people think, oh, are you saying that our father's house, what should I do about it, or his land? Yeah. Know your share. What is the value of that share? Buy your share, or sell your share, or just give it back to someone. But don't leave it unclaimed. No. And maybe you will share with us next week, inshallah, statistics and numbers of how many millions of dollars or billions of dollars are just sitting there waiting for someone to come and claim them. They're sitting there. These people will be questioned and asked about this wealth by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمْ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. You want to know what Islam says about wealth? Wealth is something, it's a responsibility. Allah says, you're not allowed to give your wealth to someone who does not have good financial management. Sufaha. They say a safi is a fool, a person who doesn't have good financial management. In Islam, it is not permissible for you to give the wealth to someone who doesn't know how to manage it, someone who's going to waste it. It's prohibited. So scholars of Islam say it's haram. Because Allah says, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمْ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. وَرْزُقُوهُم مِّنْهَا. Give them some pocket money, give them some, but you can't give them control over wealth. In Islam, the person who doesn't have good financial management may lose, even if it's his own wealth or money that he inherited, may lose control or authority over his own wealth because of his lack of financial management by the Sharia. The Sharia came, keep in mind that the Sharia came to protect 5 things, 5 necessities, one of which is what? Al-mal, wealth. So that is not something to be taken lightly, and one has to follow the Sharia. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the breakdown, and I'll just give you a couple of examples from the Quran. Keep in mind that I'm going to give you examples of how the wealth that is left behind, how it's divided. Right? And I'll just share with you a verse from the Quran. But keep in mind that here in America, you have to what? To write the will yourself. You have to make this decision yourself. Find out what your case is according to Islam, or you go to an expert. And you will have to have a financial or legal expert and a shari, someone who has a shari background, bring the two together and make sure that your will is Islamically and legally correct. And you have to bequeath, you have to endow, you have to advise, you have to commit yourself that money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verse 11, Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. One of the principles is that a male gets 2 shares amongst the children. The male gets 2 shares, twice the share that a female gets. The male gets twice the share that a female gets. Now, is this general? I mean, this is open. Is this the case? See, a lot of people say, how the Sharia does that? Did you know that there could be a time where, for example, if someone dies and he has parents, his father and his mother. His mother will get more than his father. His mother will get 1/3, and his father will get 1/6. So this is not always. It is actually very specific. Allah says, يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ. When it comes to the children, you have children, and you have daughters and you have sons. Right? The son gets twice the share of a female. So she gets one share, he gets 2 shares. And of course, there are obvious, when we look at the Sharia, our Sharia is nothing to be embarrassed of, or it's nothing that needs to be, it doesn't need to be defended or anything. It defends itself. You have to understand that Islam is a complete way of life, it's one package. And you have to look at the whole, what the package is offering you. See, when you have any package, You go to buy a house and they give you a package, or you go to buy a car and they give you a package. You have to go to look at the whole package. You can't just pick one part of that package and say, oh, this is not fair. Right? The part of that package that the Sharia gives in issues of finances, in the rizq, in the money, the Sharia makes the male member of the family responsible financially for the female. And obviously, if my daughter gets 1 share and my son gets 2 share, guess what? According to the Sharia, she does not have to spend from her share a penny. And he will have to spend for her needs and necessities from his share. If she is married, her husband is financially responsible. She is not. Her share maybe will sit in the bank or will sit in her account. She will have to pay zakat for it, of course. And maybe she might even end up making her husband pay zakat for it. Right? And it will just sit there. Where his share will be spent either on her or on his wife and his children. So it's not going to be sitting around. So this is from the Sharia perspective. So this is one of the principles that were mentioned. The presence of children affects the shares. And when it comes to the heirs, they are pretty much named in the Quran. They are specified. The categories of heirs are mentioned in the Quran. 3 males and 7 females. 3 are male and 7 females. The son may inherit, the father may inherit, and the grandfather. These are the ones that are the heirs. And then in certain cases, the brother may inherit. The brother may inherit. That's it. So you have the son, the father or the grandfather, and you have what? The brother. When it comes to the females, pay attention to this. When it comes to when it comes to the females, what do you have? You have mother, you have grandmother, you have daughter, you have sister, and then you have the husband and the wife. And this is the case that I want to, for example, I want to talk about I'm just giving you examples, because again, each case has to be looked at separately, because each case is different from the other case. When it comes to the husband and wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ إِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ. وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ. You get half of what your wife leaves if she does not have a son or a daughter. If she doesn't have a child, you get half, 50%. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُنَّ وَلَدٌ. And if she has a child, whether it is from you or from someone else, if she has a child, فَلَكُمُ الرُّبُعُ مِمَّا تَرَكَ. Then you get 1/4 of what she leaves, 25%. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَهُنَّ الرُّبُعُ مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ. They get, meaning a woman, she gets 1/4 of what you leave. إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ. If you don't have a child, فَإِنْ كَانَ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ فَلَهُنَّ الثُّمُنُ مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ. If you don't have a child, if you have a child, whether it is her child or someone else's child from a previous marriage, if you have a child, then she gets 1/8 of that wealth that you leave behind. That's the share that is assigned. So the presence of a child makes a difference. In both cases, as well as the other cases, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps saying, in each one of those, verse 11 you'll find it, in verse 12 you'll find it, Allah keeps saying, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصِي بِهَا, and another one, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ تُوصُونَ بِهَا, أو دَيْنٍ. This is after, there's a factor here that has to be observed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, after the will that you wrote, after whatever is mentioned in the will is taken care of, or dayn, or debt. So what happens is that your wealth is gathered, and your will is implemented. So if you have a will. If you wrote a will, your will has to be implemented first. Now, when it comes to the will, you have power over 1/3 of your wealth, which you can give to anyone or do anything with it. Anything halal, of course, not anything haram. Anything halal. You can give it to the masjid. You can, you can divide it as you want, and maybe give half of it to the masjid, and the other half give it to someone that may not receive a share. Maybe you have someone who let's say, you have individuals who, towards the end of their life, they go through a lot of pain and someone maybe a relative, a distant relative or a friend would come and help them a lot. Could they write in their will something? Could they leave behind a gift to that person? Yes. From that 1/3 of theirs, they can. Where is the dalil for that? The dalil is Hadith Sa'd. When he thought he was dying, when he was so believed something, so the Prophet ﷺ told him, he kept basically decreasing the amount until he told him الثلث والثلث كثير. He said, you only have authority or power over the 1/3, and even that is a lot. And then he told him that do not, you see what Sa'd wanted to do, Sa'd wanted to donate or give away all of his wealth before he died. Or he wanted to write a will in which he gives away all of his wealth. So the Prophet told him not to do that. So he said, okay, O Rasulullah, then 1/2 of it? He said, no, that's too much. So he said, okay, 1/3 of it? He said, الثلث, he said 1/3 is okay, وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ, and that is a lot. And then he pointed out to him, he said, it is better for you to leave your children, those who are dependent on you, financially well off. Don't leave them with nothing. Even if you're going to give all of that money to the masjid or to a good cause, leave something for them, because you don't want them to become what? A burden on the society. You see, make sure that they're well off, they're well to do afterwards, so they can do good deeds. And guess what? When they do good deeds and they are rich and they can make more money and they can help the economy of their community or their society, and they become productive financially, and they give sadaqah, you will get that. You will get the reward. You still get the reward. So it is very important to think about the financial welfare of your heirs or your children. So that's the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ basically made it clear that the person has only right over 1/3 of his wealth. Now, there are some details that I don't, again, want to get into. Inshallah, I would like to open the floor for Q&A. But one of those details is, does a non-Muslim inherit from a Muslim? Do Muslims and non-Muslims inherit from one another? As an heir, the person becomes disqualified because of their kufr. As an heir, they don't have a share. So if someone has a child that commits apostasy, meaning he denounces Islam and he gets out of Islam, he comes wearing the cross, and in the janazah he will be praying to Jesus for your rahmah, right? Can you give that person? That person loses their share. They have no share. However, or for example, a very common example, someone who is married, a brother who is married to a non-Muslim woman, does she get something? Okay. Of course, what she gets is from the wasiyyah. The person could actually write from that 1/3, he can give as much as he wants to that person. Whether it is a relative or it's a mother-in-law or father-in-law, even if they're not Muslim. So a lot of times people confuse those two issues. Wasiyyah, what you write in your will, what you bequeath, is different from the shares that are mentioned in the Quran. Wallahu ta'ala. Okay. The floor is yours now for questions, inshallah. If you have any questions or any, yes. Yes.
The Lecutre
Yes.
Who is the custodian of all the papers? Suppose the man dies and something wrong happens, they hide the papers or destroy the paper. Then the paper is supposed to be kept. Of course, in the United States, on the office, everything is recorded, including marriage and everything. But what does Islam teach?
In Muslim countries, again, you should, that's why I was saying that the scholars in the old days, they have discussed this, that a person should have more than one person as a backup, because you never know, what if that person dies before you or they die with you. So you should have more than one person, basically, that know about your wasiyah, whether it's kept, whether you keep it in the safe or under your pillow, right? So you have to basically make sure that you have and then there are people who assume that role and responsibility automatically after your death. Amongst them, called awliya, the wali, the person. So for example, the oldest child, or the older brother, or the father is present. So depending on which family figure, which relative is present, they assume that role and they take over. And of course we have the judge, the Muslim judge, in the countries that have. But here I'm not sure if somebody really have it.
If the will is properly done,
yes,
it has to be recorded in the country office, and it is a public record. Anybody can go and. However, like you mentioned, he has to tell his family member that there is a wasiyah, and it is the will, and it is located at such and such place. It does not have to be open until afterwards. But it's a public record.
One thing, by the way, sometimes it might be very difficult to go back and update and change the will that you have, the legal will that you have. But some of us might have little things here and there. Let's say, you owe someone $1,000, someone owes you, let's say, $1,500. These things have to be recorded and make sure that that people have access to it after your departure. So, whether it's so make sure that someone knows where it is, whether it's on your laptop or it's, you have a printout of it somewhere. Let someone know, and you go update it. This is your wasiyah. This is your wasiyah. Okay, so something like this is a document that is available. And inshallah, the copies will be available out there. But there are a lot of websites nowadays that help, and there are a lot of forms out there. I will leave that inshallah up to the experts to share with us next week. And maybe the week after we could offer you also some kind of personal assistance for those who want to know how to divide the share according to the Sharia. I'll be available. You can ask me. You can get free consultation. But if you want to do it properly and right, then inshallah we'll let you know how to do that.
I have a question just for you to respond to that and clarify. Because it's a practical situation.
Yes.
Some Muslims feel or think that they own the money and they don't have to give wives their share. We are in California. California is a community property. Being community property, anything you have after marriage, it has to be divided equally between the husband and wife. And then each one can have his heirs, inheritance rules according to Islam. So I want your legal scholarly opinion on that.
Well, when it comes to this is for people who did not sign up at the sign of agreement, right? So the sign of agreement is the same. But Islamically, the husband or the wife does not have this automatic right over the other person's wealth. Islamically, it's whatever you have given her, for example, as a non-investment. And of course, you are obligated, Islamically, to give nafaqah and to spend. By the way, nafaqah is even takes place even after death. They say there is a nafaqah during the iddah and all of it has to be taken out of it. And whatever you have promised, whether it is muqaddam, something that you pay in advance, or mu'akhar as they call it, becomes a debt. So after the person's departing, and departure is taken out of their wealth before anything else is touched. This is on top of the share that she has. But the wife has this automatic, or the husband, or I know cases where actually the man is suing the wife. I'm talking about Muslims, because she makes more money than him. And so he's suing for half of the wealth. This is how. This is not permissible. to take something that is not half of yours. However, if the person, and I'm talking about, of course, this is, I don't want to say this is the exception, but these are special cases. If we have people, couples, who work together hard to build a business together, and the business is obviously, in most cases, in his name, right? And they bought a house together, and they make payments, and they share the financial burden together. Many people, after, let's say, the marriage comes to an end, or there are problems after 10 years or 20 years, many people assume that, wait a minute, it's all in my name, it's me, she only has a mahar, and he gives her a mahar, and probably 20 years ago, her mahar was maybe a piece of gold, and that's it. He gives her that piece of gold, maybe a couple of $1,000, and he goes, go home, that's it. That's not true. So each case has to be looked at differently. Is she married in a case like this? And I know Muslim scholars here in North America that actually ruled in certain cases where they granted the wife not only half, but maybe sometimes in some cases more than half of the wealth, because she took an active role in making that wealth with her.
The point I want to make is that we are here in the United States by the American law before we implement the Islamic law. And legally, the spouse will
automatically get it.
Exactly. They automatically get the 50% of the half. And then each one can distribute it according to the Islamic rules.
In this case, she becomes a wali on that wealth. She has wilayah, she has control over that wealth. And now she has to deal with that wealth according to the Sharia. So she keeps her share, and she delivers the rest of the share to whomever it belongs to. Unless they say, you know what, Jazakallah khair, but she becomes basically in charge of that wealth. She assumes the responsibility of that wealth, and she will have to basically divide it according to the Sharia. But she does not assume, or he does not assume, that it's theirs. So for example, let's just take the other example. If the wife dies, and the husband basically takes control over the whole, and this happens a lot, this happens where the husband does not even pay attention. He doesn't realize and remember that it doesn't belong to him and his children. If she has parents, then her parents, whether he likes them or not, that's besides the issue, right? Because her parents have right to this wealth. They have a share in it, and he has to deliver that. So many people assume that, she has children, that's it, belongs to our children, and I'm there, I have 1/4, and the rest is for my children. No. The parents have a share that has to be delivered to them, if they're alive. Yes?
You mentioned 4 ways. Can you talk 6 people on one hand, like
Like we're saying amongst the heirs, it's really these details are, I don't know how important they are, but siblings, and by the way, even siblings are of different types. A sibling that your half brother or your half sister from your mother's side is treated differently from your father's side. By the way, interestingly, that you brought this up. Who do you think is closer when it comes to inheritance?
Mother.
Your half brother from your mother or your half brother from your father?
Mother.
The half brother from the mother side takes precedence and is closer to you than your half sibling from your father's side. Just because you share the family name, that doesn't. When it comes to wilayah and marriage, it's different. It's the opposite. But when it comes to inheritance, the person that shared the same womb with you is closer to you and has more right than the person who did it. Even there now. So this is something a lot of people are talking about. Yes.
أمنية كان يمكن كان ندخل الوصية بشكل تالي يعني إنه مثلا just brief statement. I would like to devise my.
Well, according to the Sharia,
can we do
John should have if he's not dead, or we have a better thing that he's alive. Okay, I have something with him.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, can someone say, let's say I don't want to write all these details. So can I just write a piece of paper and notarize it and everything and say, I want my wealth or my estate to be divided according to the Islamic Sharia. For more information, consult Shaykh Muhammad.
Sure, but as a matter of fact, we all write it this way, to the according to Islamic Sharia, and according to the will, you have to check with a Muslim scholar anywhere
But could it be just one piece of paper, that's it?
It could be done anything, as long as it is notarized, whether recorded or not recorded. Once it is notarized and kept, fine. But he has to tell other people where did he keep it.
Okay.
Of course, if it is recorded, there is writing it something and then perfecting it is recording it at the authority.
Okay. I got you. But inshallah, for this kind of service, we need to start charging people. I get representatives or Brother Liam,
Yes, that's the most question. State of California is a community property. That means you can write what we call I love you will.
so let me do that.
Be notarized, it is a legal document.
Okay.
A legal document. So that will fulfill his will.
Okay. You can do that. However, you're going to leave the main work for those people who are after it. You have to. In some cases, you might have to specify what madhab you want to write it according to. In case the Imam changes,
Thinking in a non-Muslim country, if laws, like the federal or state laws, they conflict with Sharia law, so they have their own laws. Then how do we implement this?
And that's why he said that. This is a piece of paper where you say that you want your wealth to be divided according to the Islamic law. Then they will have to come to, the judge or the lawyer or whoever is handling this legally. They will go and consult a legal Muslim consultant. How is this done according to Sharia? And then when you come, in the old days, the judge or the Muslim, the person who is by the way, when it comes to fara'id, not everyone is an expert. So you just don't go and ask someone with knowledge. Like, for example, today I was consulting the Shaykh without mentioning his name, a very common one Shaykh. He said, by the way, I'm not the best person to ask me about fara'id. Even at the time of the Sahaba, the Prophet said, Afradukum Zayd. He said that Zayd is the most knowledgeable when it comes to fara'id. Because of his knowledge of the Quran and all of that, he had it's a specialty. Even when you go to students or graduates of Sharia, it's a specialty. Some people specialize in it. I remember when we were taking the course, I had a lot of interest, and I loved it because it involved a lot of calculation and math. There are some people who just couldn't handle it. One of those things that helped you also excel in that is memorizing and knowing the hadith and the verses that talk about it. And because it's so complicated, not anyone can answer this question. Because there are a lot of, I don't want to say holes, but there are a lot of details that a person has to pay attention to. So it's not just one formula. There are so many formulas and so many cases. You were asking me today about al-i'ala, or like some scholars call it al-amal. Which is I couldn't find a translation for it. But this is a very special case that could happen. It's not a very basic or one of those. It's a special case. Even the Sahaba had a hard time. Abu Bakr and Umar. Umar said that one of those things that he said, I wish I had asked the Prophet before he died, is I believe it was whether the grandfather inherits or not. The grandmother, whether she inherits or not. So there are a lot of details that need to be. So you have to ask the right person.
And also depends on the time of death. Because if I die now, maybe I have certain heirs, but if I die later, my heirs probably some of them die and they don't. I don't have my mother or father now, so they don't get. However, if I died when they were still alive, they would have a share.
And that's why a shortcut, a quick way of doing it is what you said.
Yes, sure.
If you want to mention the details based on your circumstances now, that might change and you might have to update your will. In fact, sometimes there's a case where, subhanAllah, and one of the shuyukh was telling me that there was a case where a man died, right? Shortly after he died, or a few months later, before his estate was divided, one of his parents died. Now, the siblings contacted the children of this man who died, and they said, we want our haq. Why? Because when he died, there was a share for the parent. When the parent died, now the share became who? Their children, his siblings. See how? And that's why I tell people, so when someone dies, you have to settle it immediately. Actually, it's one of the etiquettes is that after the janazah is taken care of and everything, immediately, within 3 days or less, immediately, the person's tarika or his inheritance, his estate has to be divided and it has to be settled. Let me say settled, because sometimes you don't have to literally or physically divide it. It has to be settled once and for all. Because if one of the heirs die, the issue will get complicated. And if another person dies, it will get more complicated. So time will not make things better, but time is actually in this case runs against you. It goes against you. The longer you wait, the more complicated it might become. So it has to be settled ASAP after the person dies. And the reason the scholars recommend that it is settled within, let's say, 3 days, or it is because people, they are very emotional, they are soft, and they are attachment. You see, we have this natural attachment, emotional attachment to wealth. It is easier to work out any differences or any problems because people at that time, they're not interested. They're like, we don't care, okay, we take it. So it's a lot easier to handle it then. But most people, unfortunately, don't want to deal with it then. They're like, okay, money is not something we want to talk about. We don't want to touch this now. No, do it then. When you're emotionally in a state where you don't have that much attachment, that's when you need to settle it. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Wallahu ta'ala. Any emotion from the sister's side? Yes, okay. I was going to give you an example. We'll have to end the shower. Any critical from the Sharia perspective, it's from legal or the next week it will be addressed?
Yeah, I have seen cases where in the transaction actually, the sister they just give up, they say, okay, we don't want a share.
Yes.
Just let the brothers divide us, something like that. Is that...
If she doesn't, if the female gives up her right because she doesn't really need it or she doesn't want it, and for the sake of Allah, because she's wealthy or she has a wealthy husband, Allah subhanahu wa bless her. But if she says Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel, or if they, for 10 years or 20 years they ignored it and she can't get it, in my opinion, this is very similar to someone who's mukram, someone who is forced or coerced into giving up his right. Or if it's done out of hayat, save it. And Allah Ta'ala, this states, and they are obligated to pay that back and give it back to that person. And if this matter is not settled in their lifetime, it will be settled in the hereafter. It will be settled. That's why it is very important to make sure that the person is satisfied. Yes?
The 1/3 portion?
Yes.
Can you give that to one heir and not the others? Or
You can't give it to one of those heirs that have already an assigned amount of an assigned share.
cannot.
You can't give them on top of their share.
Cannot.
You cannot. You should not do it. It's haram. However, they said if it happens, let's say your father did it, he didn't know, he did that thing in the class like this, or he didn't. They say that share, that portion of the wasiyah is suspended. It's not going to be approved Islamically, unless the other heirs, they say it's okay. Let it happen. But you yourself, you must not do it. You cannot. You cannot give someone on top more than what the share they have. You can give it to someone who doesn't have any share. And someone who doesn't have it. Again, remember what we said about saying it has to be done with the correct intention. Because sometimes someone might say, I don't have a child. My wife is going to get 1/4, 25% of my estate, and my mother is going to get only 1/3. Do you know that? Now some people are in trouble. Your mother gets 1/3 if you don't have a child, if you don't have siblings. Right? You see how many conditions there are? If you don't have multiple siblings, and you don't have a child, for example, someone dies. Let me give you this example. Someone dies. He doesn't have children. He has a wife, one wife, of course. Alright? He has one wife. And he has his parents. His father and his mother. What do you do with his estate in this case? In this case, the mother gets 1/3. The wife gets 1/4, 25%. The father gets 1/6. 1/6. Less than the mother, less than the wife. Now, if there will be a remaining portion, right? There will be a portion that remains. That goes to the closest male member of his family, and that would be in this case what? Back. So the father paid on top of the 1/6, he gets the remaining amount. So let's say someone comes and says, I don't want my wife to get all. And he calculates 25% is, let's say, $2 million. That's too much for her. So he goes and gives 1/3 of his wealth to his grandfather. So it would go back later to his father. Or he gives it to his uncle, his father's brother. With the intention of decreasing the amount, not the share, because the ratio did not change, but with the intention of decreasing the amount, the net that his wife is going to get. That is common. That is common. So the wasiyah, the will has to be written with the correct intention. Now, yes.
Yeah, this is not distributing the wealth regarding Sharia.
Yes.
During the critical illness.
Yes.
What Sharia says about that? Can you specify the will? Is it okay to say who can make a decision? Can you, on critical illness, if you are not alert to make a decision?
Yeah. If someone is in a critical stage in their sickness, right, and or their judgment is impaired, or they're not totally in control. First of all, the Sharia comes, the Prophet in the statement, encourage us to take care of this before we get to this stage. He said, do not wait until then and then say, oh, if you got together, we can write better. Don't say, حتى إذا بلغت الحلقوم. The Prophet said, don't be of those people who wait until the last minute. Do it as soon as possible. But if someone is in that state, the Prophet was asked by one of his companions that my mother is actually in that state, and can I donate, can I give on her behalf? The Prophet said yes. So a person could act, especially if they know what their will would be. Some scholars said it is only from within that 1/3, but that responsibility always is taken back to the wali. Those people who have to make a decision. The same people that will make a decision about the burial, or for example taking them off the life support, the same people will have the authority to make that decision, of course with the legal and Shari support or consultation. Any questions? There was one more person from here. Yes. Yes. Yeah, in Islam, the non-Muslim wife does not have a share. She does not have a share. However, there is this 1/3 which the person has control over, so he can give her as much as he wants from that 1/3. He can give her as much as he wants. Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, we will be here for anyone that wants to do aside the conversation on this issue. We have Hajj with us also if we need any. But inshallah, next week, do not forget, next week, inshallah, we'll have with us a lawyer. What was his name again? John Nolan. Alright, John Nolan, whoever he is, John Nolan, and we have Hajj Sabri, inshallah, with us to talk about it from the financial and the legal point of view, and walk you through how it should be done legally, inshallah. But again, nonetheless, it's a matter that needs to be taken care of ASAP. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you of those who listen to the best of our days. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.